Should we perform acro or acrobatic maneuvers when flying with passengers on a tandem paraglider? For me, the answer is a clear no. We should never do maneuvers that put the lives and safety of our passengers at risk under any circumstances. This is especially important when we're flying commercially with passengers who aren't students or paragliding pilots, people who just want to experience the joy of flying. I have several reasons for this. The first reason is that a paraglider wears out significantly when we perform maneuvers or acrobatic moves. When we do spiral dives, wingovers, or stalls, our paraglider endures more g-forces. When there are more g-forces, the paraglider supports more weight. For example, if we and our passenger together weigh 180 kilos and we do a spiral with 3 g-forces, those 180 kilos are multiplied by 3, meaning our glider will endure nearly 600 kilos. All paragliders are certified to withstand greater forces, even up to 10 g-forces. For instance, if our tandem is rated for 220 kilos, it could theoretically handle up to 2,200 kilos. But if we repeatedly expose it to higher pressures than normal, its lifespan is reduced. Given that a tandem paraglider is costly, over $3,000, shortening its lifespan with acrobatics just isn't economical. In commercial activity, you want profitability, which means reducing costs, not increasing them. Doing acro will raise your depreciation costs for the glider, tandem, and harnesses because both the pilot and passenger harnesses also endure these g-forces. So, doing acrobatics might cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars a year. Second reason, tandem gliders can even fail or break when doing acro, and it has happened before. There was a popular model from a now defunct paragliding brand called Gradient. This model, the Golden, was very agile and used frequently for acro. It could spiral, do wingovers easily, as if flying a solo glider. But it often broke its central A lines, causing accidents. Though this tandem passed certification tests, in practice, it still broke under acrobatic use. A few years ago, a new Australian brand, Flow, experienced a similar issue with their tandem model, the Panorama 1, which they later fixed, but they had line breaks due to spirals. So practically, there is empirical evidence that tandem gliders can fail and break when doing acro. Not all tandems, of course, but we don't want to be in that small minority whose tandem glider breaks. And if we're using older gear or harnesses or separators, the risk increases even further when performing acro. Reason 3. In many parts of the world, performing acro or maneuvers with passengers is completely prohibited, either by associations, federations, or national law. Now, you might wonder, who cares? There's no air police to enforce this. Often, associations don't strictly enforce these rules, and national laws aren't always upheld because there's nobody to monitor them. As long as everything goes well, the client is happy and no one cares. But what if thing forces don't go well? What if an accident happens, a passenger is injured, or worse, there's a fatality? Then the problem begins. Because if you as a pilot broke a rule, either from an association or a national law, that accident is no longer just an unfortunate event. It becomes negligence or even a crime. Penalties can be severe in these cases. If everything goes well, everyone is happy. But in the event of an accident, authorities will investigate the pilot, and the pilot will need to show that everything they did was in accordance with the law. If anything wasn't, that accident becomes a negligence issue and therefore a criminal act. Point 4. The moral responsibility we have towards the passenger. You might think, well, the passenger assumes the risks. They signed a liability waiver. And, perhaps, if I do ASRO, I'll also make them sign something that says they understand and accept the risks. Yes, but not entirely. In reality, no passenger fully understands the risk they're taking on, even for a standard flight without acrobatics. There's a risk, though it may be minimal, that the passenger simply ignores. They assume, unconsciously, that it's like a roller coaster where everything will be fine, and accidents are almost non-existent. This means there's a complete lack of awareness about the natural and real risks of paragliding, and even less if we propose acro, where the risks are much higher compared to a regular flight. There is no waiver that fully exempts us from the moral responsibility we hold towards our passenger. The best way to avoid this responsibility is simply not to do acrobatics or maneuvers. Reason 5. When we do acro with a passenger, we're usually working in an area where other tandem pilots are also flying with passengers. Once one pilot begins doing acro, other passengers start asking for it as well. They feel that if they're not doing spirals or wingovers, their flight is somehow inferior. This indirectly pressures our fellow pilots or competitors to perform maneuvers too. This can create a vicious cycle. In reality, there are experienced and less experienced pilots, and some equipment is newer than others. Standardizing acro and tandem flying raises the likelihood of accidents, and that's not beneficial for anyone. Whether it's the solo pilot, commercial pilot, instructor, or tandem pilot. Reason 6. Passengers don't actually place significant value on acrobatics. They may enjoy it, scream with excitement, but if you compare the satisfaction of a passenger who had acro versus one who didn't, it's practically the same. The flight experience alone is amazing for them, and if we don't do acro, the risk is much lower. In business, if a differentiating factor isn't valued by the customer, it's not worth doing. Acrobatics isn't typically valued by tandem clients. It's rare that a passenger will request acro unless you offer it, or they've chosen paragliding solely for acrobatics. Passengers simply want a safe, beautiful flight, minimizing risk. So, what's the solution? If you want to add a bit of thrill without the risk, you can do simple turns that increase speed without increasing danger. These could be small swing forces with an angle less than 30 degrees, which aren't classified as acro and don't break any rules. 2 or 3 of these light turns are usually enough for the passenger to feel the excitement. You can also do light dolphins, where the passenger feels a bit of weightlessness, followed by gentle swinging. You could add 1 or 2 360-degree turns, but these don't qualify as spirals and are just standard turns. Here's an example of a small swing with a passenger. You can see she's thrilled, even though I only did 1, 2, 3 turns, and it was over. It's like a roller coaster for the passenger. Here, a sharp turn, no added G-forces or extra risk, but the passenger is thrilled. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Do you have other reasons why acro shouldn't be done with passengers, or good reasons for doing acrobatics with them? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos on tandem flying. See you in the next one.